No, I certainly did not at all. It was a great confusion during the shooting of the picture.
A legendary actress, a lifetime of iconic roles, and a headline claiming she revealed her 5 favorite films just before she died. It's dramatic, emotional, perfect for the internet, but it isn't true. Ingrid Bergman never lived to be 91, the age often quoted in these viral posts. She never sat down for a final interview, and she never released anything close to a ranked list of favorite movies. What she did leave behind was far more fascinating. Scattered across decades, interviews, letters, quiet confessions to friends, notes to her daughter, are glimpses of what truly mattered to her. Not gossip, not mythology, but philosophy, craft, and the roles that reshaped her life. So today we're doing something better than repeating a fake list. We're reconstructing the 5 films she spoke about with passion, conflict, humor, doubt, and truth. Movies that reveal who Ingrid Bergman really was. A woman who valued honesty. A woman who chased art over comfort. A woman who believed film could touch the twilight of the soul. Before we begin, tell me this. If you could ask Ingrid Bergman one question about her career, what would it be? Because now. We begin with number 5, the performance that pushed her deepest into the dark. Number 5, Gaslight, 1944. Ingrid Bergman didn't rank her films. She didn't keep score. But when she spoke about Gaslight, something changed in her voice. A mix of exhaustion, pride, and raw honesty. Because this was the role that pushed her into the deep end of human fear and forced her to climb back out. She once described film as an art that goes straight to our emotions, into the twilight of the soul. Gaslight was the proof. Bergman plays Paula, a woman slowly manipulated into believing she's losing her mind.
Something I never expected would happen. Suddenly it is as if nothing else existed. Even my music, which used to mean so much to me.
No makeup tricks, no grand theatrics, just a controlled descent into anxiety that feels terrifyingly real. And it worked. Critics praised her slow unraveling. Audiences felt her pain. And Bergman, who always insisted on emotional truth, delivered a performance so grounded that it won her her first Academy Award. But here's the part most people don't know. She didn't think she was doing enough. To her daughter Isabella, she confessed her approach. Keep it simple, make a blank face, let the story fill it in. She believed subtlety held the power, that a trembling breath could say more than a scream, that silence could be louder than hysteria. And it's true. Revisit the film today and watch her eyes. They shift, almost imperceptibly, as Paula starts doubting her own memories. It's the quietest acting Bergman ever did, and the most devastating. Behind the scenes, the pressure was intense. She was still proving herself in Hollywood, still fighting for complex female roles, still navigating a studio system that wanted glamour more than psychological depth. Gaslight gave her a chance to break that mold, and she refused to waste it. Even decades later, critics point to the film as the moment Bergman transformed from rising star into force of nature. And here's something fascinating. Gaslighting, the modern psychological term for manipulation, came from this very film. Her performance didn't just win awards, it helped define a concept now used worldwide to describe emotional abuse. How many actors can say their work changed the language? But for Bergman, the real reward wasn't the Oscar, it was the connection. She believed film could bypass logic and speak directly to a person's heart, and Gaslight had that power. Now picture this. The lights dim, the gas lamps flicker, Paula stands alone in a darkening room, unsure whether the world is collapsing or whether she is. And we feel it, because Bergman makes us feel it. That was her gift. She didn't want fame, she didn't want the spotlight. She wanted truth, even if the truth was painful. And Gaslight was painful, but it was honest. And she cherished honesty above all. So here's your question. Do you think subtle performances age better than dramatic ones? Or does Gaslight stand out because Bergman knew exactly when to hold back and when to break? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious how you see it. Number 4, Stromboli, 1950. Before Hollywood crowned her a legend, before tabloids painted her a villain, Ingrid Bergman made a choice that stunned the world. It all began with one letter, just a few sentences. A bold invitation that changed the course of her life forever. Here's what she wrote to director Roberto Rossellini after watching his neorealist films. If you need a Swedish actress who speaks English very well, and in Italian knows only ti amo, I am ready to come and make a film with you. She signed it, simply, Ingrid Bergman. That letter led to Stromboli.
You cry? No. No.
And Stromboli didn't just mark a new chapter in her career. It detonated a cultural explosion. Because this wasn't Hollywood glamour. This wasn't soft lighting and controlled sets. Stromboli was volcanic rock, real villages, real fishermen, real ash drifting across a barren island. Bergman wanted truth, and Rossellini gave her a world built entirely from raw reality. But the production was chaos. The heat blistered, the wind stung, the volcano rumbled like an ancient beast under the ground. Bergman slept in tiny stone houses, worked with non-actors, and battled unpredictable weather. And she loved it. She later said neorealism freed her. Freed her from Hollywood perfection. Freed her from the polished, glamorous roles she had outgrown. Freed her from the image that Casablanca had locked her into. But Stromboli's impact wasn't just artistic, it was personal. Her affair with Rossellini became one of the biggest scandals in American entertainment history. Newspapers condemned her. Politicians condemned her. One US senator even called her a powerful influence for evil. Imagine that. An actress being denounced on the floor of Congress because she chose love and honesty over an image controlled by studios. But Bergman never backed down. When asked years later if she regretted any of it, she said 7 simple words. I have no regrets, none at all. That's the heart of Stromboli, a woman trying to escape a life that felt too small. A character trapped on an island she cannot understand. An actress trapped inside an industry she could no longer tolerate. Watch the final scenes again, where she climbs the volcanic ridge, desperate, trembling, almost breaking under the weight of her choices. And you'll see more than a performance. You'll see a woman fighting for her identity, both on screen and off. The film was misunderstood when it premiered. American audiences weren't ready. Critics were brutal. Hollywood slammed the door in her face. But time has a funny way of rewriting history. Today, Stromboli is studied in film schools, praised by directors, and recognized as the moment Ingrid Bergman reinvented herself. So here's the question for you. Would you risk everything? Your career, your reputation, your comfort, for the chance to pursue a more authentic life? Was Bergman reckless or remarkably brave? Let me know in the comments. Number 3. Anastasia, 1956. If Stromboli was the scandal that exiled her, Anastasia was the film that brought Ingrid Bergman roaring back from the ashes.
I remember hearing Father say that in a fight you were harder than anyone in the family. I thought at the time that was a very strong word to use.
By 1956, Hollywood had turned its back on her. Studios distanced themselves. Newspapers mocked her. The public stayed divided. But behind all the noise, Bergman kept working. Quietly, fiercely, with the same determination that carried her through the storm. And then 20th Century Fox offered her the role of Anna Korev, a woman who might, or might not, be the lost Russian Grand Duchess Anastasia. It was the comeback of a lifetime. But she didn't treat it that way. She approached Anastasia like she approached everything with precision, humility, and a hunger to find what was true beneath the surface. The role demanded duality, a woman shattered by war, a woman unsure of her own identity, a woman caught between who she is and who she is told she might be. And Bergman understood that conflict intimately. Because here's the irony. Anastasia's story of exile mirrored Bergman's own. A woman cast out, a woman judged by strangers, a woman waiting for the world to decide whether she could come home again. During production, crew members recalled how deeply she inhabited the role. Her voice softened in vulnerable scenes. Her posture hardened in moments of defiance. She carried pain in her shoulders and hope in her eyes. Then came the scene that changed everything. The Dowager Empress, played by Helen Hayes, confronts Anna. Not with demands, not with proofs, but with a single devastating question. Who are you? Watch Bergman's face in that moment. The hesitation, the breath, the flicker of recognition, the confusion, the longing. It isn't acting as much as it is revelation. For one split second, Anna doesn't know the answer. And neither does Bergman. When the film premiered, critics raved, audiences softened, the Academy bowed. And after years of exile, Ingrid Bergman walked onto the Oscar stage and took home her second Academy Award. She later admitted she never expected to win. She believed the industry had moved on, that the scandal had doomed her legacy, that the door was closed for good. But the world surprised her. Some say Anastasia restored her reputation. Some say it redeemed her. Some say it proved talent outlasts gossip. But here's the truth. Ingrid Bergman didn't need redemption. She needed recognition, and Anastasia gave her exactly that. It's a film about identity, but it's also a film about forgiveness. Not from the public, not from critics, but from oneself. And maybe that's why Bergman cherished the role. Not because it erased the past, but because it finally acknowledged her humanity. So now tell me, do you think an artist deserves a second chance? Or should their personal life define their legacy? Drop your thoughts below. Number 2, Autumn Sonata, 1978. Ingrid Bergman had delivered heartbreak before, but Autumn Sonata was something else entirely. This wasn't a performance built from technique, elegance, or classical Hollywood poise. This was a woman exposing the bruise beneath her legacy. For decades, audiences wondered why two Scandinavian giants, Ingrid Bergman and Ingmar Bergman, had never made a film together. Same last name, same artistic reputation for emotional truth. Two global icons shaped by discipline, loss, exile, reinvention. It seemed inevitable, but privately both avoided the partnership, not out of conflict, but out of fear, because they knew that if they ever stepped into the same room with a camera rolling, they wouldn't be able to hide.
Jag minns den där tiden omkring Eriks födelse. Just då spelade jag in alla Mozart-sonaterna och pianokonserterna. Jag var inte ledig en enda dag.
Not behind glamour, not behind technique, not behind the comforting distance of fictional characters. When Ingrid finally agreed to make Autumn Sonata, she was already battling illness, already exhausted, already aware that her time as a performer was limited. And maybe that's why she chose this story, a film about the things people confront only when they can no longer run from themselves. She plays Charlotte, a world-famous pianist who spent her life traveling, performing, dazzling audiences, while leaving emotional wreckage behind. Charlotte is brilliant, beautiful, admired, but also absent, self-protective, and terrified of intimacy. It is one of the most daring roles Ingrid ever played, because Charlotte isn't likable. She isn't soft, she isn't comforting. She is a woman who built a life out of applause because applause never asked her to stay. And Ingrid understood her more deeply than she ever publicly admitted. When filming began, Liv Ullmann, who plays Charlotte's daughter Eva, said she could feel Ingrid shivering between truth and performance. The camera became a confession booth. Scenes didn't just unfold, they bled. The most devastating moment is the late-night confrontation between mother and daughter. Two women in a dimly lit room, no music, no distractions. Just years of unspoken resentment finally escaping into the air. Watch Ingrid's eyes in that scene. They don't simply react, they recognize. Every accusation Eva fires becomes a mirror. Every silence becomes a wound. Every word of disappointment hits Charlotte like a truth she has been denying for decades. It is the closest Ingrid Bergman ever came to performing without armor. And yet, behind that vulnerability was extraordinary discipline. Crew members recalled her rehearsing until her hands trembled. She pushed through physical pain, refusing to rest. The cancer she kept private was already taking a toll, but she believed the film demanded absolute sincerity, and she refused to give it anything less. Ingmar Bergman wrote later that Ingrid's performance was so honest it frightened him. He wasn't alone. Critics were stunned. Audiences were silent. The film was raw in a way most people weren't prepared for. It wasn't just a story about a mother and daughter. It was a story about the cost of choosing art over connection. And Ingrid knew that cost better than almost anyone. She had lived through scandal and exile. She had watched the world judge her choices, her motherhood, her independence. She had rebuilt her career from ashes. She had felt the sting of betrayal, the ache of reinvention, the weight of public scrutiny. So when Charlotte says, "I have always loved you so in my way," it is not just a line. It is a lifetime of tension condensed into one trembling admission. What makes Autumn Sonata extraordinary is that it doesn't offer forgiveness wrapped in sentimentality. It offers something more honest, an uncomfortable truth that people sometimes love imperfectly. And that understanding this does not erase the hurt. The film earned Ingrid some of the highest praise of her career. Many critics called it her greatest performance. Not because it was glamorous or epic or romantic, but because she allowed herself to be seen without protection. It was one of her final major roles. And fittingly, it was the one that required the most courage. Autumn Sonata is the story of a woman who sacrificed closeness for brilliance and lived long enough to regret the imbalance. And in many ways, Ingrid Bergman used the film to explore questions she had been asking privately for years. So let me ask you, do you believe great art requires emotional sacrifice? Or is that just the narrative we build around the pain of ambition? Tell me in the comments. Number 1. Casablanca, 1942. If you stopped 100 movie fans on the street and asked them to name Ingrid Bergman's greatest film, 99 would say Casablanca. But here's the twist. Bergman herself didn't agree. She respected the film. She admired its emotional pull.
It's about a girl who had just come to Paris from her home in Oslo, at the house of some friends.
She even understood why audiences were obsessed with it. But in one interview, she said plainly, "I made so many films which were more important, but the only one people ever want to talk about is that one with Bogart." And yet, Casablanca refuses to fade. It breathes, it travels, it grows larger every year. Let's explore why. The performance she didn't think was her best became her most iconic. Bergman filmed Casablanca without knowing the ending. Literally. The script was constantly being rewritten, so she didn't know whether Ilsa would stay with Rick or leave with Laszlo. And that uncertainty bled into her performance. Look at her eyes in every scene. They're searching, questioning, choosing between past and present, passion and duty, memory and fate. It wasn't acting, it was instinct. It was a woman suspended between two worlds, not knowing which one she belonged to. That emotional limbo, it's unforgettable. Bergman called the film mystical. She said, there was something mystical about it, as if it had a life of its own. And she was right. Casablanca became more than a movie. It became a cultural compass, a wartime love story wrapped in smoky rooms, piano keys, and impossible choices. It became shorthand for sacrifice, for lost love, for that one person who changed your life even if you didn't end up with them. No wonder the world kept coming back to it. The airport scene, the moment cinema became poetry. Watch her face in the fog. She's holding every emotion at once. Love, regret, fear, admiration, heartbreak. Bogart speaks. She listens. Deeply. Every line carves into her. We'll always have Paris. Here's looking at you, kid.
We'll always have Paris. Here's looking at you, kid.
And she absorbs each one like a promise and a goodbye woven together. The magic of the scene isn't the dialogue. It's her reaction. It's the softness in her eyes. The invisible tremor in her breath. It's the moment Ilsa understands that leaving Rick is the only way to save him. That quiet sacrifice is the reason the scene still stops time. Casablanca is the film she couldn't escape, and the film audiences refused to free her from. Bergman admired the film's power, but wished people explored the rest of her career. She made bold choices. She crossed nations, genres, scandals, and reinventions. But the world kept returning to that foggy runway, that bittersweet smile, that whisper of destiny. And maybe that's okay, because Casablanca isn't about what the actors thought their film should be. It's about what the audience needed it to be. A compass, a memory, a refuge, a myth. So let me ask you, do you think Casablanca is overrated, or is it the greatest romantic drama ever filmed? Drop your verdict in the comments. So, did Ingrid Bergman really reveal her 5 favorite movies before her death? The headline makes for great clickbait, but the woman herself never played that game. She didn't publish a list. She didn't rank her films. She didn't sit down at 91 and whisper a final top 5. She didn't even reach 91. What she did leave behind were fragments, quotes, private letters, confessions she never expected strangers to analyze decades later. Pieces of a life that reveal something far more meaningful than a numbered list. She left us the honesty of saying Casablanca wasn't her favorite. She left us her belief that films speak into the twilight of the soul. She left us the courage to write one impossible letter, a letter that changed her career, her reputation, and her entire life. She left us her humanity, insisting she was no saint, no symbol, just a woman trying to live truthfully. So now the question passes to you. If Ingrid Bergman had named her top 5 before she died, which films do you believe would have made the list, and why? Drop your thoughts below, and let's keep her story alive.